The Jets official now draft order, not 13th, but 15th overall after the pick swap with the Green Bay Packers. They no longer have the 42nd overall pick. That was, I believe that was the one they got back from Green Bay, that 43rd is their own. I might have that backwards.
42 is from the Browns.
42 is from the Browns. Okay, so they send the Browns pick, which was 42. They have their own second round pick, which is 43. So that gives them 15 and 43. They still have 112. They still have 143. They sent 207 and they got back 170. So that gives them 170 as well. So 15, 43, 112, 143, and 170 are the five official picks for the New York Jets in the 2023 class. And you alluded to it, Matt. I think there's going to be some depth added for this defense eventually. And not only depth, possibly some starters. Workshopping this in my head, also news breaking yesterday morning, Connor McGovern re-signing at center gives them an option as a starting center, to where I feel like they now don't have to be forced into using, at the time, one of their two second round picks and now their only second round pick on a starting center, and can free that up, I think, to take an impact defender. And I don't know about you, Matt, but we're sitting here, a handful of hours now before the second round of the draft kicks off. Keanu Benton at 43, I would be putting money on every single sports book that possibly exists right now, because that just seems too likely to me to happen. And now that center is taken care of, I would love Antonio Johnson at safety, but I think defensive tackle is going to be where they go, and they're going to value the trenches more. And if this guy's there at 43rd overall, I think he's clearly the best interior defensive tackle they're going to have available to them, and a guy they're going to be really glad to have on board.
Oh, absolutely. If we can get Benton at 43, that will make me feel a lot better about the interior depth. Because right now it's just Quinnen and Jefferson, who we got from the free agency. And that's not much. Like we need more studs there. We need more relief. Last year we were dangerously thin on the interior. When Quinnen went down that one game against the Lions, you saw the impact.
They ran for like 180 yards that game.
And not only that, but they double teamed our edges and just left all everybody on the interior singled up, and they did nothing. And our pass rush was neutralized the entire game because of that. So it matters to have bodies in the middle, especially bodies like Benton, who's a big boy, but can also get after it in the pass rush as well with his quick twitch and his burst off the line. He kind of fills a lot of needs right now. And he's a little and he's versatile as well. So I would love to have him at 43.
Yeah, me too. That's my ideal pick at 43 right now. Workshopping this again, knowing their official picks, knowing Aaron Rodgers is for real, and we are going into the 2023 draft in a reality that we were not in before. First round pick, 15th overall. I want an offensive tackle. If by some miracle Paris Johnson is there, then fantastic. If not, Darnell Wright probably will be, and that sounds perfectly good to me too. Disaster scenario, I'll take DeJuan Jones at 15 and laugh all the way to the bank. I think they can get a really good offensive tackle in the first round. Even if it's not one of the three I mentioned, there's still guys that they could get that would be solid picks there. Second round pick, Keanu Benton, we mentioned it. 100% on board with that one. 112 is where I want to talk with you, Matt, because I think this is an interesting pick where they could go a variety of different directions, and I don't think they would necessarily be wrong with any one of them. But the position I want to bring up specifically that I want to see if they target, Corey Davis was not part of this trade, and
Mm.
it's he might have been very much expected to be for a while. I know we had certainly thought that it would be a possible piece to include familiarity with the offense, needing another big receiver to replace Alan Lazard, who came to the Jets. It made a lot of sense considering Lazard was basically replacing Corey's role here. Why couldn't Corey go do the same thing for them in Green Bay? But that didn't happen. He's not part of the deal. And as of right now, he's still on this team. Asked about it today, Joe Douglas had his pre-draft press conference. He was asked about Corey and said, classic Douglas, we love the player, great work ethic, type of guy you want in your locker room, but made sure to mention that, it's a business and they're going to have to view all things and take all things into account. Is Corey Davis going to be cut, or is he going to be back? because I think they need to know, and it's likely the Jets already know this and we don't, but I would hope that the Jets have an answer to that before this draft happens, because if they cut Corey Davis, they need another body at wide receiver. And I think they are best right now taking offensive tackle and defensive tackle first round, second round. But if they could maybe package 143 and 170, I'm seriously thinking about getting up into the third round for a wide receiver. If they cut Corey Davis, because I just don't know who's going to be left at 112 that's going to really move the needle. And I think if you don't have Corey there, you have Lazard, you have Garrett. Can you rely on Mecole Hardman or Denzel Mims as your number three receiver? I don't know if you can. So I really think they need to have somebody else. If they keep Corey, and he is part of this team, and maybe with Rodgers' new restructured contract, they're going to have more cap space to work with than we think, and they'll be able to keep Corey in the fold. Then I think you start looking to build depth at 112. You look for that center that we've talked about to then be under McGovern instead of having to outright start right away. I think you look for maybe a backup running back to go with Brees Hall. I think you look for possibly some defensive depth. If there's a safety that's fallen that could challenge for some playing time, I think that's when you look there. But I think at the end of the day, whether it's Corey Davis or a rookie, they need to know who their number three receiver is going to be, because Aaron Rodgers is here and Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson by themselves just isn't good enough.
No, they're not. Um, I think that they go into the draft thinking that they are keeping Corey, because you can't go into it assuming that you're going to draft a replacement. You just never know how it's going to fall. And then who would that replacement even be? Because there's not a lot of people that can match his size uh, and ability in the run game.
Cedric.
You got Cedric Tillman, yes, but at
Trade to round three, Joe Douglas. Cedric.
I think the only way that we do a Cedric Tillman is if we trade back, maybe.
That
Maybe
works too.
I don't think they want to give up any more draft capital than they already have. We're already kind of running on fumes after all our trades. It's I
In the
could
words
see
of Les Snead, F them picks.
have them picks, but at the same time, we need more picks and we want more picks because we want more talent. So if we move back from 15, maybe if we move back from 43, maybe I could definitely see that. I have Cedric Tillman as as a late second round, early third round pick. So to trade up from 112 would probably cost quite a bit. Uh, to trade back, I think is probably the best route to get Cedric. But that's only by my rankings. Who knows how anybody else ranks him? He might be ranked a lot higher because of the void of big wide receivers that can really make it on the outside. So I it's such a crapshoot. And even then, like even if we trade back, there's no guarantee that he doesn't go even before that. So there's just so much up in the air right now as far as who's going to be available and when we can get them. Uh, I still think Corey makes it to the opening day roster. But with 112, I still think that you're right. They're probably just going to look for depth. And if Corey is our number three, then we can at least look for depth at wide receiver. So Hardman and Mims aren't our only backups that to fill in if there's injuries up front. Um, so yeah, I think wide receiver, center, like we were talking about, are on the table. Maybe running back, maybe tight end, maybe safety, maybe even linebacker.
Yeah.
I think they're all on the table right now.
Yep. And I think you just wash, rinse, repeat exactly those positions you mentioned for 143 and
Yep.
170.
Just
And
best player
it's
available at any of those positions.
right, exactly. If you're a running back, a wide receiver, a linebacker, a safety, or a tight end, and you're decently good, the Jets are definitely going to be looking your way at 112, 143, and 170.
Mhm.
Is there any position, Matt, that you think they absolutely will not take in this draft?
Cornerback.
I have two. actually,
corner
and I could
cornerback
workshop this a little
and
bit more.
let's see.
Corner and quarterback. I don't think they take a quarterback.
You know what?
You're
I
going to
think
have
there's
Rodgers, Tim Boyle, Zach Wilson, Chris Trevler, and a rookie.
here's the one thing that I'm curious how they feel about Hooker, because if Hooker does drop to, let's say, 43, and I,
You
it's
can't. You
hard.
just traded for
You
Rodgers.
just traded for Rodgers, but
You're
at the
giving
same
up a
time,
first round pick next year if he plays 65% of the snaps, and you're going to take Hendon Hooker now to be his backup and not like you. The amount of people, and I'm not saying this should influence any decision making, and I love Hooker, so I get it, but you're going to hear the people saying, "Oh, well, the Packers wasted Rodgers for years. They had him and never took a receiver in the first round and only took defense and never gave him help. And now you go and trade for him and draft his backup immediately." Like it's going to be a nightmare
it
right
would be.
after we just got done through all of this. And it may end up being ultimately a smart move because you're getting a guy who's talented that you can stash because of his age and because of an injury that's going to have him go further down the board than he probably should. Get to learn from a guy like an Aaron Rodgers, but they signed Tim Boyle. I think that took them out of the they need another quarterback market because we were operating with the assumption that it was going to be Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson and Strebler and nobody else. We lost Mike White. Who's going to be that Mike White? Where who's Rodgers' actual backup? Because we all know it's not Zach or Strebler. That I think is Tim Boyle, and I don't think I just can't fit another rookie draft pick of a quarterback on this roster. And I think honestly, I think if they draft a rookie quarterback, it's going to be either in the fifth round. They don't have a sixth round pick anymore. And if they draft one at 170, I'm not even sure they make the week one roster.
Eh, again, that's kind of like a throwaway pick for me.
Yeah.
If we draft like a quarterback late, it's what's the end goal there? Instead of finding depth for other positions of need for right now, we're getting maybe a QB3, QB2 for the future. Like that, you don't, especially in a draft when you don't have that much capital. Would I spend it on depth to depth, depth for depth? It's that's not what I would prefer. Which is
No.
why the only quarterback I could see is maybe Hooker, and that's only if they love him, and only if they think that they only have Rodgers for like 2 years, maybe
Yeah.
at
Well, they'd
most.
have to have like a top 10 grade on Hooker. They'd have to think
Yeah,
they'd have to be like, this guy will be our next quarterback after Aaron Rodgers, and we have to take him right here. There is nobody else that we want. There's nobody that we can get next year because you're literally saying we're not going to have a first round pick. There's nobody we could get in the second round or nobody we could get within range of trading for that is going to be as good as Hendon Hooker, potentially not knowing whether Rodgers is going to be there more than a year in 2024. I as a big of a Hendon Hooker fan as I am, I just can't see that.
see, but here's the thing: next year, you have no idea what the quarterback class is going to be like, and if we're looking to get at least a year of a rookie behind Rodgers, then it's either this year or next year, maybe. So, without a first round pick, now we're looking at all right. Well, so now we're looking at maybe the second tier or even the third tier or fourth tier of quarterbacks next year. So if they love Hooker this year, why even risk waiting for next year to see what could come along that's better, or it might not be better. It could just be worse.